or tactical team.
Hey there guys, this is me, Malorian, and this is going to be another Orc Tactical team, but instead of talking about tactics, we're more so going to be talking about sex. And the way that this is going to be coming in is with Privateer Press, the models that they release, and where they're kind of going with them, and some of the concerns that I have. Now, let's start off with this part. Now, Privateer Press, if there is a scale or a gauge that's showing to what degree are the models trying to use sex appeal to sell the models, Privateer Press is on the good side. If there's a good or bad, but they're not really doing that. If you look at their models, they're all usually in heroic poses, trying to look epic, doing big action things, and more specifically, I mean, if you look at those women models, they're not scantily clad. When they have armor, it's like, hey, I got full sets of armor. It's not just a chainmail bikini. You know, compared to some other companies out there that will do that and be like, oh, look, it's a female model, so massive bosom, and, you know, scantily clad and long bare legs and only armor covering the boobs type thing. You know, Privateer Press is really good for making models that are more focused on, hey, this is a game about battle, and this is how you'd be dressing and going into battle. And I really appreciate that. Now, at the same time, they release alternative models, and I got a list here, and some of them, you know, go kind of the other way. Now, one of them here is the Trollkin Kilt Lifter, and I mean, it's kind of suggestive, but I mean, of course, this is Trolls, so probably it's not seen too much into it. There's the Druid Gone Wilder, and so that's one where, okay, I guess the two models are maybe about the same amount of clothing, but now we're adding alcohol. And again, maybe that's another thing where you read more into it, but it seems whenever there's alcohol involved, you know, maybe it's just because inhibitions are kind of more pushed aside, and then now men are more hopeful that if they see a woman with a beer, they might get lucky. Either way, however you want to read into that, you know, you're starting to see where this is kind of going. Next one here is Bombardier Bombshell. And so instead of being like in a big armored suit, you know, it all opened up, and what do you know, inside is this woman with a mug of beer and almost no clothing on, right? Like tank top type thing, right? And it's like, okay, alright, I see where you're going with this. You have the Steel Soul Keg Protector. This one here is more so for conversions, and you know, it's a robot, but it's still the same thing. You know, this robot lady trying to go and watch this keg instead of being in her protective pose. Now it's just kind of leaning back on the keg. Alright, now we're going to be getting to things like the Gorman DeWolf, a PG exclusive. I don't know, it's Gorman, and this one's just made to look cool and different. Okay, sure, I can get into that. The Blighted Bather. So this is one where instead of the spawning vessel, she's bathing inside the blood, which is, okay, people will add like rubber duckies and all that stuff, and it can be kind of funny, but at the same time, you know, it's a lady that's bathing naked, and there it is. We have other ones that are good, so say like the Gobber Drudge, which is just really a drudge being done different. There's the Blind Water Brew Witch Doctor, which instead of a gator doing this little, you know, voodoo thing, now all of a sudden you got this lady kind of like in this gator cosplay, which is like, okay. Then we have the Brute Thrall Femme Fatale, which is a female Brute Thrall. We have the Bloody Buccaneer Scar. We have the Smogcon Hollow Man. We have the Black Ogren Buccaneer PG exclusive. I don't think I've even seen that one. Here's another one that I like the way it went, and this is the Thegrosh Painter of Everblight, which is, I love it because, you know, here's you taking a model and it's painting instead of being like fighting, and that's hilarious. So, you know, you can see in there that there's kind of a variety of where they've gone with these models, and that's kind of something what you want to do for an alternative model. You want to make something that's interesting and different. You know, your whole market behind this is the idea that, hey, you've already bought this model, but here's this different one that's interesting, and if you want your army to look different from everybody else's, why don't you get this exclusive model, or maybe you just like the way it looks better, and so you can go and buy that and then get into your army. So that's okay, right? And then we start getting to where we got to here at Lock and Load. And that's where it seems like things are kind of officially going off the tracks. And what I mean by that is that they start getting into a couple of other models that were certainly going one way, and then they roll out a program which is kind of completely the other way. So the first one they did here is Rinny, the Gobber Speculator. This is the thing where it's Reinhold, but instead of being Reinhold, actually I have that model, it's over there, but it's a pinup model instead. So instead of being the little goblin guy that we all know and love, well, now it's this skinny lady in stockings and, you know, kind of showing off the goods and looking all sexy and stuff. And it's like, all right, I see where you're going with this. You know, it's different. I'm going to buy it because I play Mercs. And sure, okay, whatever. And then they get into another one where they did the Squire. And the Squire is literally like a little tiny robot that has no form. It's just an orb that has little legs coming out. And when they do the alternative model for that, which I thought like maybe it'll be like a little robot man or something like that, now instead it's this like lady that has like, you know, of course now armor just on like covering the boobs and stuff, and makes no sense. And it's clearly with these two models, where some of these other ones are like, okay, a little bit to the sex appeal, to the fun and silly, and back again. This is now clearly going this way here. Now, from all this, there's of course been complaints that there is sexism being more introduced into War Machine, that they're pushing towards showing off the female form and trying to sell models through sex appeal as opposed to just models that look cool. Now, Privateer Press could have taken several ways to deal with this. One of the easier ones is to more so just focus on the ones that are fun and silly as opposed to trying to use the sex appeal. But they went completely the other way. And what they decided to do is, instead of getting rid of or shifting away from the pinup models, they're now going to go to the beefcake models. And what that means is, just like you have sexy ladies, now you're going to have sexy men. And this got me a little bit concerned of a way they want to go to. It also goes along with another program they want to run out, where every single month or whatever the cycle is, it's basically like a loot crate where you order this and you'll get a female model and a new male model, and there you go. You'll be rolling out these alternative models on whatever basis they end up actually settling on. Now, as I said at the very beginning of this movie, the Privateer Press is actually in a very good spot, or was, where a lot of their models are focusing on being dynamic and in epic poses, and kind of moves away from that type of thing. And now they've definitely said like, hey, let's just embrace it. You know, if we want to not say that we're just doing sexy women, we're also going to be doing sexy men. And here we go, roll it out. And now we're kind of forced to address this. So, I mean, clearly there's different ways to sell models, and we can talk about whether this is pushing out women from the hobby if you only had the one and not the beefcake, or anything like that. But it really comes down to this simple thing. Are you trying to sell models through an epic pose or through sex appeal? And these are the two sides. And when you think about this, right away you want to be saying, well, okay, for this game to be respectable and taken seriously, we should really stick with the one where, hey, we're going to stick with epic poses, make all these, you know, models look badass and ready to really kick butt, make sure there's a mix of men and women all the way through, and there you go. That's one way to really go. However, one of the things that's really hard to deny is that sex sells, and that all these models that look like this, the reason why people go and make them is because they sell. You know, the reason why other companies go and make those models is because they sell. There's in fact several and very many companies that only go and sell models that are made to look sexy. And there's in some cases, no game that's even attached to it. You know, it's not like we're trying to make models that you could be using for this other game over here. And it's like a wink, wink, you could be doing this. It's just like, no, we're just going to randomly make naked models, and here they are. You can buy them. And the reason why they do that is because people buy them. And what we have to decide as a community is if this is what we want this game to be. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to be Privateer Press which has to decide this, but we as the community are the ones who are going to decide and vote with our dollars whether this is what we want this game to be. Because really, if what we did is kept on supporting this and buying all these models, and eventually there's all these alternate models for all of them, well, it'll get to a point in X amount of time that you look at the table and pretty much every model on the table will be Bombshell X or Beefcake X, right? And is that where we want this to go? And really, if not, we should make sure we're voting with our dollars and not doing that. Now, which way am I actually pushing things? Well, for my part here, it's tough. And why I'm saying it's tough is because this really comes down to a social issue. And it's a really hard thing you want to get into. Privateer Press has fought this all the time, where they are, of course, before having things like, you know, play like you got a pair, and then eventually they kind of move that away. Even now with their new Steamroller 2017, they left it where a lot of these things have to talk about, you know, he and stuff, so they're assuming they're talking about men. Actually, I shared one there on the Mr. Moyan Facebook page where Zosha went in and actually changed it so it's all gender neutral. So that's one way we can be looking at this, but the other way you can be looking at this is that, hey, if we have a game, War Machine, and we want this to be successful, the blunt, honest truth might be that this game will sell more models and do better if the models are appealing to more people. And then the way it goes is that people like having models that look good to them, and it turns out that sex appeal really does that. Now, I'm sure right away people are going to have a lot of comments down below like, "Molar, you're stupid, blah, 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 blah." But here's my social experiment on this. I have recently released 2 orc tactical teams that I want to compare for this. Number 1 is the last one I did on strategy and tactics. This is a hardcore for people who want to be playing a tight game. This is a very serious video. Meanwhile, there's this one that's going to make sure a thumbnail of something sexy. And you can almost bet, and know, like bet as much as you want, that if you come back here and look at it in 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever, this video that's going to be having the thumbnail and the topic talking about sex and War Machine is going to have more views than this orc tactical team that I'm very proud of that really focused on mastering strategy and tactics. And so no matter what, you come down now and write in the comments below and say, "Lauren, you're stupid, blah, 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 blah," this experiment should show very clearly about how I'm actually right, and how even if part of us is saying this is kind of wrong and this shouldn't really be in this game, to be successful, it might be better if it is. So I'm going to leave it at that. And so maybe instead of attacking me and attacking each other, you know, how about we just put down our thoughts down below. So if you have a thought of it should go one way or another, or a thought or concern, or maybe there's another option, please post it down below. I do realize this is something that could turn into a flame war against different people, so please don't do that. Don't make attacks against people. If you really do and you just really want to attack someone, attack me. I'm a YouTuber, everyone hates me, so there you go. Thanks for watching. We'll see how this experiment goes, and otherwise, we'll catch you later. Bye.